Hello and welcome to Charles Kelly Money Tips. I hope you're having a great day. I've been up in town today in London, just looking at a few properties up there, and it's a lovely sunny day in London. There were thousands of tourists everywhere. I was up near Parliament in Westminster, and I could see all the demos going on there. And the Brexit vote, it looks like it's still not quite sorted out. They voted for part of it, but they seem to want to delay it again. So according to commentators, it doesn't look like we're going to leave the EU on the 31st of October, which is probably not good news. I think that the market, estate agents have told me that things have been pretty bad. One property developer told me the other day that he's never seen it so bad, and he's lived through lots of recessions from the 70s, 80s and 90s, and he said this is the worst he's seen. So we need to get this sorted out one way or the other, I think. But anyway, London was beautiful as ever, and some agents are telling me that the volume is actually going up. People are moving again, so people are just ignoring the Brexit situation, saying, well, look, I've got to move, I've got to buy a property, I'm just going to do it. But prices have obviously come down, especially in London, by quite a bit. Today I wanted to talk about spending, and the question, should banks monitor our spending so that we don't overspend our own money? This comes when, in light of a story that's come out, someone called Amanda Whiteman had $28,000 in her account after the sale of a house, and she knew that she should be putting some aside, but within months she'd spent the lot, and she was going through depression, sort of a compulsive disorder, and a bank, she just spent it, and a charity is asking whether the bank should monitor our own spending, whether they should look for the signs of mental health problems and actually monitor our own spending. The charity is called Money and Health Policy Institute. Is calling on banks and building societies to monitor customers' data to spot signs of problems such as sudden drops of income, dramatic increases in spending, or persistent use of unauthorised overdrafts. Well, they obviously do look at persistent use of unauthorised overdrafts and probably would want to shut your account down. But I think it's very difficult to monitor a spending pattern. I'm sure they've got the capabilities of doing it, but then a lot of people might then argue, well, do you want the bank looking over your shoulder saying, oh, should you be spending that money, or why are you drawing that out? I mean, I think already the banks do get you to sign something when you're making a withdrawal or a large transfer. Like if you're buying a property and you need to transfer 20, 50,000 to an account as a deposit, the banks ask you questions, don't they? In fact, I was getting annoyed with them recently. I said, why are you asking me all these questions? I've done this before. I don't need to go through this. But they said, no, you don't get your money unless you answer these questions. You don't get your money. I said, well, I'll shut the bloody account down. I don't care. So I got annoyed with them. But they are certainly looking out for people that might have been scammed, particularly where you've got pensioners been marched down the bank to draw out £5,000 for a roof repair by some con men. So they are doing that already. But as for looking into your spending habits and saying, well, I think this person is spending too much money, it's very difficult. And a lot of people would get very angry if they were told they can't withdraw money. The charity said that sadly 100,000 people who have debt attempt suicide each year in England, with many suffering depression through debt. And there are people with a lot of debt at the moment, not just their mortgage debt, but a lot of personal debt. So it is definitely a problem. And I've worked in banks, and I've seen bank staff say to each other, oh, she's back in again to draw some money out. And I remember there was one woman who used to come in the morning and draw out £1,000, and this is in a small town. And she'd spent that by lunchtime, and by the afternoon she was coming back to draw out another £1,000. And I remember the staff talking about it. But for them to sort of say to her, well, are you sure you want to draw this money out? I think she would have just shut the account down and walked off down the road to another bank. Fortunately, her husband was a big earner in the city, but also a big spender. And I've used his stories in the past because they used to spend a lot of money and had less savings than some people who had much smaller incomes than these guys because they spent so much money. But that's a big question. Should banks really be monitoring that? I mean, what do you think? Do you think the bank should be looking over your shoulder and saying, well, I think you're spending too much money, you're dipping into your savings? I think it's a dilemma for the banks, and I don't know how they can solve that problem. I talk about this in my book, Yes, Money Can Buy You Happiness, where I talk about money management and watching your money and watching your spending. That I call it the 3 R's of money management. One of the formulas I have in the book, because it is important that you do save and watch your money. It's not just all about saving. You've got to generate income. But clearly, if you go through your life 40 years, as many people do, of working and earning money, and then end up with nothing, that something's not right there. You can't just blame it on the cost of living or the cost of cigarettes going up, because many of these people you can see have high spending lifestyles and habits that use up their money. But to get through life and say, well, I've got no more money left, the state's going to have to look after me, in a country like this where you've got every opportunity to earn money and save money, it is tragic. In the UK, people have the opportunity to earn money, and I've seen many migrants come here and work 2 and 3 jobs and manage to save and buy a property and look after families at home. So if they can do it, anybody here can do it. So it's a bit of a tragedy to go through life and not have any savings. And I think the average amount of savings in the country is probably around £5,000 per person, which is not a lot of money considering people earn hundreds of thousands in their lifetime. So that's the question today. Should banks be monitoring things? And I think it's very difficult. And when I worked in the bank, they had the same customers who used to go overdrawn with unauthorised overdrafts every day, and they were called up by the banks and charged £25 because they'd gone overdrawn, and the bank had to employ 4 people in that branch alone just to monitor the same people who went into their overdrafts or went overdrawn without permission every day. So you can have an overdraft on an account and that's not a problem, but if you have an unauthorised overdraft, that means you're going beyond the allowable overdraft, and this can happen because you've written out checks. Anybody remember checks? Or you've tried to spend money and your account has gone below the balance or below the overdraft limit, or you've had direct debits hit in your account on the first of the month for your mortgage and there's no salary there. Then the bank will tend to bounce that payment. They'll stop it and then charge you an amount of money for stopping it, and then you're into trouble then, because then that can trigger further charges as other payments are bounced as well, and that can end up with hundreds of pounds of fees paid to the bank. And people blame the banks, but what can they do? They can't just keep paying out money that's not there because the people are not managing their money properly. So it's very important to manage your money properly, and you should be knowing what's coming and going into your account without having to sort of go to the bank and find out what your balance is. Let's face it, we've got apps on our phones that we can use to check the balance anytime we want. We can go down to a hole in the wall and check our balance. But the best thing is to have it on a spreadsheet, as I've suggested here, to have it on a spreadsheet and to know, well, this every month I've got, say, £1,000 worth of standing orders and direct debits. You can get a list of your standing orders from the bank. So every month that's the minimum that's got to go out of your account. So you've got to make sure that money's in there on the due date, because if you pay a check in today, it's not going to clear for another 4 or 5 days, because that's the way the banks work. So the money's got to be there when the payment goes out, and then you know, and you've got to look at what you spend. It's so easy to indiscriminately spend with a debit card, isn't it? To go out to the shops and say, well, I'll buy that and I'll buy that, tap this and tap that. Let's have another meal, let's have another few Starbucks, and suddenly you've overspent in the month. And then you need a contingency fund there to cover the big expenses that might come in, like your boiler breaks down, your car breaks down, and you need a few £100s. Then you've got to have a contingency fund. You've got to have some savings there to cover those eventualities, because they will come. The rainy days will come, and we all know the rainy days will come. So always have something there as a contingency. As I say, I explained a bit more in the book, Money Can Buy You Happiness, because money can buy you happiness if it's managed and controlled. And it's not the be all and end all of happiness. It doesn't the pound note sitting in your hand is not going to make you happy. It's what money can do for you. And that's just not going out and having a good time. That's providing a roof over your head. That's providing security. That's providing things for your family if you have a family. It's providing those little luxuries and holidays, and doing things for other people, perhaps providing for enabling you to give to charities and do something for other people. That's what money also enables people to do. It's not just about money can buy you happiness because I can go out and buy clothes today. That's just temporary happiness. Money is there for many, many other things. And that's what I talk about in the book, because I believe that it's all right to say, oh, money doesn't buy you happiness, but try being broke. That doesn't buy you happiness either. And as this charity said today, 100,000 people a year are attempting to commit suicide because of debt problems. So being in debt, having no money is not much fun. And I've been to countries where people have literally zero, nothing, and try telling them, oh, money doesn't buy you happiness, your happiness will come in the next life. It doesn't work with me anymore. We all need a bit of money, and we need to manage our money properly. And certainly in this country, we have every opportunity to do that. And also have some contingency fund if you lose your job. Anyway, I talk about it more in the book, but you should have a few months' salary in there, at least in your bank. But unfortunately, most people are only 1 or 2 months' salary from just being homeless, because if their salary stops coming in for a couple of months, that's it. Everything collapses. They can't pay their rent, their mortgage. They've got no money to pay bills. But, you can't live like that. So before you go out and buy, a second or third flat screen TV for the house, have some savings there before you, go out for drinks every week or smoke every day, and that's got to be a £10 a day habit, hasn't it? Or before you book that second and third holiday, think about having some contingency funds there. And before you go out and order a new car and think, well, it's only £300 or £400 a month, think about saving £300 or £400 a month so that you have some contingency funds in your bank account for those rainy days. So thanks very much for listening. This is Charles Kelly bringing you money tips to help you save, earn, invest, accumulate and enjoy more money. Just to give you a bit of background on myself, I spent 25 years in financial services. I've worked in banks, insurance companies, and had my own IFA practice. That's independent financial advisor, not income FA, that's independent financial advisor. And I've sat in front of thousands and thousands of people and looked at their financial situations in detail, and they would tell me things that they wouldn't even tell their own family. So I know that people who are happy with money, people who are happier and generally more content with life and finances in general, you look at the people, you look at the family, you see they're more happy, are people who manage their money and also manage their life, manage their time. They are happier than the people who are all over the place and don't know where it's going. Where's my time going? Where's my money going? Oh, I don't know where it's all gone. And oh, I can't find that statement. And oh, how much is my mortgage every month? Oh, I don't know. Oh, I think it's a 500. I'm not sure. They're not happy really because they're disorganized. They're always worried about money because they're not organized. So it's about organizing yourself, your life and your money, and then you will feel happier. I've seen it, every time I've seen it. People I go into a happy home, they know how much money's coming in, they know what's going out. They are happy because they're organized. Their life they lead, let's use the word, an orderly life. They have an orderly money system. They know what's coming in. It's not about being boring. It's about having an orderly life and being organised so that you can feel happier and more content with life. Anyway, read all about it. This is Charles Kelly. Bye for now. Thanks for listening and have a great evening.